Good evening, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your evening update on the rain depression now developing offshore from the central Queensland coastline. Plenty of rainfall is expected to be dragged in over the next couple of days, and we're going to talk about that in great detail. There have been some major developments since this morning's update, so let's get stuck straight into things right now with the southeast of Queensland, where the bulk of the rainfall has been heading through over the past 12 hours. Accumulation since the 9 a.m. today have been in excess of 130 millimetres for locations outside of Hervey Bay, Tiaro, and with 125 millimetres, so some very good rainfall has been reported down there, with more heavy showers streaming through the area now. Brisbane is on the southern side of that rainfall, and as such they have been kind of getting gypped a little bit in terms of rainfall. They haven't had too much, but those showers will pick up around the Brisbane metro area throughout the course of this afternoon and evening. Thunderstorms also currently persistent out towards Rolleston and Emerald. Those thunderstorms will weaken off in the coming couple of hours. As well. In terms of the rainfall for southeastern Queensland, there isn't an awful lot on the cards from this rainfall depression. They will still get a couple more heavy showers throughout the course of tonight, and some light to moderate rainfall also expected to tend to moderate to heavy showers throughout the course of tomorrow and into tomorrow afternoon. Wednesday, the rainfall will pick up again for the southeastern corner of Queensland from the southerly flow being dragged into the system, or the rainfall depression that's going to be up to about Mackay at that point. Now, the southerly flow here is likely to give way to some very healthy conditions for severe thunderstorms sometime on Wednesday afternoon. We're going to talk about this in great detail in tomorrow morning's forecast update, but what you should know is that there is going to be some heavy falls around the place into the southeast of Queensland, especially into the mountainous areas adjacent and just towards the northwest of Brisbane. Some good rainfall also expected into the Sunshine Coast, not just this afternoon and evening, but the rainfall especially up towards Hervey Bay and up towards Bundaberg on the northern extremities of the Sunshine Coast. That rainfall there is going to remain light to moderate and then heavy at times throughout the next sort of 48 to 72 hours. Bundaberg should escape the worst of the rainfall from this weather event here, but as we head further north up into the central parts of Queensland, that rainfall over the next few days really is going to pile on, and we're going to talk about that in great detail right now. So the rainfall depression, you can see it here on the satellite imagery. It's just offshore from Mackay at this time, really spinning up quite nicely. You can see the defined low pressure system centres here, and that beautiful inflow being dragged around on the southern side of this system here. This is moist air, which is just showers after showers after showers, which is being dragged ashore into the central and the southeastern corner of Queensland, giving way to those very heavy rainfall accumulations that we have seen over the last couple of hours. Now, the rainfall will intensify for locations between Yeppoon, including Rockhampton, Gladstone, then down towards the Agnes Water, and even as far south as Bundaberg over the coming couple of hours. In fact, the rainfall is expected to really pick up over the coming couple of hours around the Gladstone area, and some big falls are expected to the 9 a.m. on tomorrow morning. Just throughout the course of tonight, I'm expecting at least 80 millimetres to fall around Gladstone, then even more as you get out towards the locations halfway between Rockhampton and Gladstone, where the worst of the rainfall is expected. Some good falls also expected into the mountainous areas adjacent to Gladstone, especially towards the south outside of Miriam Vale and then north of Mount Perry. Some good rainfall expected out there, again up to 80 or to 100 millimetres expected to the 9 a.m. on tomorrow morning, and then more rainfall just expected to continue piling on throughout the course of tomorrow as well. You can see this rainfall depression, the low pressure system itself, actually gets itself stuck inland throughout the course of tomorrow. It makes a landfall effectively somewhere between Ogmore and Rockhampton, and that's going to give way to some heavy rainfall accumulations into the more mountainous areas inland throughout the course of tomorrow morning and into early tomorrow afternoon. The rainfall accumulations over the next 48 hours are going to be high around the Gladstone area, at least another 150 millimetres expected. And my comment section has been filled over the last couple of days with people saying on the central Queensland coastline that they're picking up between 100 and 250 millimetres over the past week. So the ground is now starting to get quite saturated, especially around the Gladstone and Agnes Water area. They have been plagued by drought conditions over the last couple of months, but it finally looks like that rainfall really is starting to build there. And 150 millimetres falling in 6 hours, which is going to be the worst of the rainfall I'm expecting in some of the more mountainous areas, could cause some minor to moderate riverine flooding. So if you live in a really flood-prone area, just make sure you are staying safe and heeding all warnings from not only the Bureau of Meteorology, but also your local shire and the news agencies as well. They'll have the best advice out on this system, or the best current advice out on this system. Rainfall accumulations, as you can see on this forecast model, the ECMWF, isn't exactly huge. That's because the ECMWF is a lower resolution forecast model. So let's flick it over to a convective forecast model, which really hammers home the detail from showers and thunderstorms, which is what we need in a forecast like this. Again, you've got to take these forecasts with a pretty heavy pinch of salt because they can miss out on great details. And you can see they've got a really big kind of isolated shower bias to this. And that's what this weather event is going to be. It's going to be a bunch of showers streaming ashore into the central Queensland coastline. And as such, some locations will likely not pick up much rainfall, but then there's going to be other locations that run away with some huge accumulations. The heaviest falls that I'm seeing on this over the next 24 hours are around 125 to 150 millimetres. Now, that's kind of the heaviest that I'm expecting here. Widespread accumulations between Ogmore down to Bundaberg will be between sort of 25 and 75 millimeters. It's towards Rockhampton and Gladstone. The accumulations are going to be on the higher end of that. And then for Gladstone, Miriam Vale, and even as far north as Rockhampton themselves, I'm expecting accumulations to be in excess of 100 millimeters over the next 36 hours for those locations, with the highest accumulations to be around sort of 150, maybe even a little bit more millimeters outside of Agnes Water and Gladstone into the more mountainous areas. Big rainfall accumulations, still a drop in the ocean for what Queensland can receive, but coming in at 12 to 24 hour rainfall rates, it is going to be significant, and plenty of rainfall is on the cards, and it will be heavy at times. So again, make sure you are heeding all warnings from the riverine. There is a good chance of some significant flooding from a weather event like this. Let's head a little bit further north, because we haven't talked about Mackay or Ogmore yet. You can see over the next 24 hours, they're not expecting an awful lot in terms of rainfall. Further inland, a couple of storms expected to take hold tomorrow afternoon, but the real rainfall for the more central towards the far northern parts of Queensland pipes up tomorrow evening and into early Wednesday morning, and that's going to be from a second tropical low. This one actually much more tropical, and this rainfall depression that's going to be skimming down off the Cape York Peninsula, which we will talk about in more immediate detail later on in this forecast update. This little tropical low here, which will turn into another rainfall depression, is going to slide along the Queensland coastline. In fact, it's going to slide just inland by the looks of this forecast here, dragging in what will likely be an immense amount of moisture from the Coral Sea. And for locations between Cardwell, including Ingham, Townsville, Bowen, and then down to about Mackay, some big-time rainfall accumulations are expected to develop from Tuesday night into Wednesday and even in towards Thursday. That's kind of when the heaviest falls are expected, Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, along the central towards the far northern Queensland coastline. So again, just bringing this back to Tuesday afternoon, you can see some big rainfall rates are expected just offshore from the Queensland coastline as this low pressure system wraps itself up. This is for Wednesday, by the way, and you can see the rainfall further south into the central Queensland area starts to die off by around Wednesday morning. There'll still be plenty of showers around, but they're just not going to be as many of them, and there will be a little bit fewer and further between, and as such, the rainfall accumulations there by Wednesday are expected to drop off a cliff for the central Queensland area. But into the far north, plenty of rainfall expected on Wednesday. The mountains outside of Ravensoe and Atherton and along Innisfail, Babinda and Tully, I'm expecting maybe 150, potentially up towards 250 millimetres to the 9 a.m. on Thursday. Of course, that's a runaway huge rainfall accumulation number that I've just put out there for those locations, but we're talking about the wettest places in Australia, and arguably this time of the year, some of the wettest places in the world. They can pick up some incredible rainfall accumulations for the more sort of, well, not dry, but still very tropical weather centres around sort of Ravensoe, Atherton, and then Cairns. I'm expecting somewhere between 25 and 75 millimetres throughout Wednesday. Down to Cardwell and Ingham, I'm expecting at least 100 millimetres to fall on both Wednesday and Thursday. Just having a look at this here, you can see Thursday morning, plenty of rainfall expected to pipe up around Ingham and Cardwell. Townsville as well, really expected to be in the thick of it by Thursday morning as well. Plenty of showers and potentially some moderate rainfall really piping up around Townsville by Thursday morning. So the 9 a.m. rainfall accumulations on Thursday for Townsville could be in excess of 100 millimetres as well. Further inland in the mountains adjacent to Townsville, up towards 125 to 200 millimetres possible there as well. So some big rainfall accumulations. Still, again, a drop in the ocean compared to what far north Queensland can receive, but 200 millimetres over a 24-hour period could still cause some problems, especially in terms of flash flooding and riverine flooding as well. The mountains outside of Mackay, out towards Glendon and Moranbah, expected to be dominated by showers and tending towards storms at times as well. Further towards the coastline, plenty of rainfall to talk about throughout the course of Thursday as well. Some big rainfall accumulations also expected throughout Thursday evening between Cardwell down to Bowen, including Townsville. The rainfall really not going to let up there on Thursday for Townsville whatsoever. And then the biggest accumulations are expected as this tropical low gets itself offshore once again, offshore from Ingham and Cardwell throughout Friday morning. And then we're talking about another 100 millimetres coming through in the 6 hours across Friday morning for Townsville, and big rainfall accumulations expected throughout Friday for the areas between Townsville through Bowen and then down towards Mackay as well. The rainfall forecast for both Thursday and Thursday night into Friday is still a little bit more variable at this time. It really does depend on where this tropical low or rainfall depression does track. If it dies inland over Queensland, the rainfall for Friday and Saturday will be abysmal in terms of what this forecast is suggesting here. But if it does get itself back over water, which does look to be what the forecast models have in store for this system, then those rainfall accumulations are going to pick up for just in time for the weekend once again. It looks like the rainfall actually continues continues through Saturday and Sunday, but again, you've got to take this forecast with a pretty heavy pinch of salt, just considering, again, the variability in it and the amount of uncertainty in this forecast right now. It is totally dependent on where this rainfall depression tracks, and it is a bit of an oddball track, a really slow-moving one. And as we saw with Tropical Cyclone Jasper, pretty much this time last year, or just a couple of days before this time last year, those rainfall accumulations, when those tropical lows don't have anywhere to go, they blow out dramatically. Now, am I saying another 1,500 or 2,000 millimeters is on the cards? Absolutely not. But there are still going to be some big-time rainfall accumulations, which you can see here over the 7-day forecast period. This is between the 16th and the 23rd, so today until next Monday. You can see rainfall accumulations well in excess of 300 millimeters for locations along the Queensland coastline. Let's head from north to south. Cairns is kind of the northernmost really wet location, in excess of 120 millimeters expected there. Again, there's going to be locations along the Cassowary coast that get well in excess of what this forecast is suggesting here. This isn't just high enough resolution to get the data out that the far north coast of Queensland does need for a forecast like this. So again, rainfall accumulations around Innisfail, Babinda and Tully will likely be much higher, especially as you get into some of the more nitty-gritty, really wet locations into the rainforest there. 400 or 500 millimeters is on the cards. Ingham and Cardwell expecting about 250, potentially up towards 300 millimeters apiece, depending on how this system tracks Wednesday and Thursday. Plenty of rainfall expected there. Townsville as well, another 200 millimeters there. Bowen about 180 millimeters expected, and then between Townsville and Bowen, Air expecting about 180 millimeters or so as well. The mountains adjacent to the coastline, like I said a few minutes ago, they're expecting some very heavy rainfall accumulations as well, probably about 40 or 50% more than some of those coastal communities. Between Proserpine right down towards Clairview, including Mackay, St. Lawrence, Serena and West Hill, rainfall accumulations will be, again, in excess of 200 millimeters there. They're in the pole position to get some really heavy rainfall streaming ashore from showers along the coastline. Further south, like we talked about earlier, Rockhampton and Gladstone, still a little bit of a wild card in terms of how much rainfall, just because it is going to be tending from showers until sort of moderate rainfall at times. So the rainfall there is still a little bit more variable at this time, but rainfall accumulations still should be well in excess of the sort of 70 or 80 millimeter mark, and definitely into triple figures around sort of Gladstone and Agnes Water, depending on how the rainfall plays out tonight. As you get further south, like I said, Agnes Water and Bundaberg, it's still a little bit more of a wild card. They're probably going to be erring on the side of less as opposed to the side of more, but again, still some good rainfall accumulations possible out there. And like I said, further inland out towards Charters Towers, depending on how this rainfall behaves over the mountains, some big accumulations also expected out there. Glendon about 80 millimeters, Charters Towers about 100 millimeters. Take that forecast with a pretty heavy pinch of salt, because again, the rainfall will be tending to showers by the time it gets further inland. But along the coastline, I can say with a very high degree of certainty that the accumulations are going to be huge, even for this time of the year. It certainly is going to be a very wet week from these two rain depressions that are going to be bringing that very heavy rainfall to the Queensland coastline. It's a lot heavier, and the forecast has revised for the worse or the better, depending on how much rain you want for the central coast of Queensland from this morning. So I have decided to make this a secondary forecast update, and again, we're just focusing on this part of Queensland here, where those rainfall depressions are going to be hitting. If you want more detail in this forecast update, then please do let me know in the comment section down below, and if you are a fan of them, then please do also let me know in the comment section down below. I feel like it's a fun thing to do, and also a big help to the central Queensland coast, especially in an event like this where all information for them is much needed. But yeah, if you want to stay up to date as well, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Also check out the Bureau of Meteorology, their website. They'll have the latest severe weather warnings and river flood warnings as well. Make sure you're in touch with your local shire office as well, especially if you live in a place that is likely to get cut off from 300 millimeters of rainfall, because there is certainly going to be some big falls here, and there could be a couple of people that end up isolated just from roads that are washing away. Anyways, that is all that I have time for this afternoon or this evening, depending on what time you're watching it. So again, thank you so much for watching this video to this point, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.